Until the 1st of February, I'm excited to be partnering with HelloFresh UK. Get money off fresh meal kits delivered to your door by using the discount link or the checkout code in the description below. Get 50% off your first box and 35% off the following 3, as well as 3 free gifts. If you want to see more from HelloFresh UK, then check out my social medias where I've been sharing my meals the last few weeks. And what's best, if you sign up, you help support the channel and you can cancel at any time.
Hello, welcome to another managerial special in the Championship from the Honest Football Podcast. I'm Craig Savage, and with me, as always, is Mr. Daniel Cody. And there's another club we're going to talk about for the third time this season. That is Wigan Athletic. They have sacked Kolo Toure after just 9 games, and they have hired a former player in Shaun Maloney as their new first-team manager. We'll get on to Shaun in just 1 second. Let's talk about Kolo's brief run. And that's all Kolo's brief run we can talk about there. No, all seriousness, obviously 9 games, 3 of them against Luton, 2 in the cup and 1 in the league. No wins at all for Kolo, and his 3.5 year lasted 2 months.
Yeah, it was a really bizarre spell, wasn't it? Look, I go back to it. We questioned the logic of getting rid of Liam Richardson, that maybe that wasn't the best time. Again, 2 or 3 weeks after giving him a new 2 or 3 year deal. And the Kolo Toure one, it was a strange appointment. We didn't really know what to expect because obviously he'd not been a manager before. And it didn't go well. None of the problems that were there presently were resolved at all via his coaching. And that defensively, they arguably got worse, if anything. And I think 18 goals in his 7 championship games, which 3-4-1 defeats. And they've got by far the worst defensive record in the league. It wasn't that bad under Richardson, albeit it wasn't great. And they've not really got that many goals in the team. At home, they've actually got the worst shot conversion in the Championship as well. So 2 very bad problems to combine together. And ultimately, I know it was a short stint. I know he didn't really get the additions that made you think, well, he's going to be able to change something here. But it wasn't good, was it? Some of it wasn't pretty. And the way they fell away when they went behind in games, particularly thinking to that 4-1 against Hull, it's not good enough at this level, and they're the sides they've got to be competing with.
Why are clubs acting like Watford and sacking managers at least twice in 1 season? So obviously Cardiff were another example. Now it's Wigan.
Yeah, and the problem with it is you look at a club like Wigan, who perhaps in the summer we'd earmarked hadn't invested a huge amount, hadn't added to the goals to the team that they might have needed, and you look at them now and think, well, actually, how much have you spent paying off Liam Richardson and Kolo Toure for 2.5, 3 years each? And how much money of that could have been spent on getting a couple of loan players in with their wages, getting a transfer in from the lower leagues? It's not just it always seems to fall on the manager, but there doesn't seem to be a great model for recruitment there at the moment. There doesn't seem to be a lot of sensible signings going on. And the board, obviously, we've had problems off the pitch earlier in the season with late payment of wages. They've got a suspended points deduction for that now. It just seems that the clubs that are both desperate and not hugely well run at the minute are the ones in that situation. And it's sad because it had started so well for Wigan under this ownership, but it is starting to become a bit of a struggle. But ultimately, Craig, the main reason is clubs down there are panicking. Cardiff and Blackpool pulled the trigger in 23rd and 21st, and Wigan, they've appointed a manager. They're getting hammered nearly every week. You've got to do something, I guess, is what you're looking at as an owner, to think we're going to be going down if we don't do something now. So we've got this bizarre situation where all of the bottom 5 have got relatively new managers appointed during the season. You've got a couple below that are potentially on the edge. It's going to be a fascinating second half of the year now.
Yeah, obviously the results speak themselves. The last game was against Luton Town at home, and having watched the game, it was poor, very, very poor. Nothing. Luton had a very comfortable afternoon. Yes, they had the goal disallowed by Ashley Fletcher, but that was it. That's all Wigan done, and just so many mistakes. Obviously, Stephen Colker dallying on the ball, and Cornick takes advantage of it and scores. But yeah, there was nothing from that Wigan side at all, and I couldn't see really creating any chances in that game anyway. But that's Kolo Toure's brief run over with. No doubt he'll probably go back to Leicester. But the new man in charge is Mr. Shaun Maloney, former player, new first-team manager at Wigan. He signed a 3.5-year deal along with Kolo Toure and Liam Richardson. Sean brings in Graham Barrett and Max Rogers to his backroom staff. Talal Al-Hamad, as a board, we knew that we needed to move swiftly and effectively whilst ensuring that we made the right appointment with a vision that aligned with how we want to take this football club forward. We are confident Sean is that person. Shaun Maloney went on to say, I'm very proud to be back. I have amazing memories here and create some fabulous moments with teams and with fans. I'm excited to get started. The thing that I love from those times as a player is a big factor for me. I've been here previously. I've always felt a great warmth from the supporters. I want the fans to see a team that gives absolutely everything, fighting to get better, and the supporters need to feel that. The connection is there. We just need to reawaken it. We need that support from 10, 11 years ago. They were incredible for the team that I played in, and we're going to need that again. Obviously, yeah, former player, but he's only managed one club. So you're going for from one guy that's had no no managerial experience in Kolo Toure to one who's just had a very little managerial experience with his time at Hibs.
And ended in a pretty similar fashion. Now, I do feel for him a little bit because he was brought in at Hibs as part of a club overhaul for a long-term project, for a changing of the style, a changing of the playing squad, and then the club panicked and sacked him after 4 months, and he wasn't doing atrociously, albeit he probably wasn't competing quite as highly as they expected. 31% win rate, won 6 of his 19. It was a very average time, and it was a slow start. But I do feel for him a bit because I feel he was taken there under false pretenses and then maybe didn't get the chance to show what he was worth in a longer term. But this isn't a job for the longer term. This isn't a job where you're going to have the chance to rebuild unless they're maybe planning for a relegation. I doubt they would be at this stage. This is a firefighting job. This is a job that's got to be done quick. And he's coming in against, with respect, managers such as Mick McCarthy, who has got a wealth of experience at this level and at this sort of job. He's coming in against managers who like Matt Taylor, who have got years of EFL experience, against managers like Lamucci, who has got loads of experience as a manager across Europe. It's a very difficult job for Shaun Maloney. He's going to be one of the most inexperienced managers down there still. I'm not sure he's going to get massive backing in the last few days of the window. I know there's a couple of little links with them at the minute. Looks like Martin Kelly might be coming in on loan to try and help their defensive struggles, but didn't really work last weekend with Stephen Corker. And I think you sort of highlighted the problem from watching Wigan, 3 times this month against Luton, which is they don't really look like scoring a huge amount, bar the odd bit on the counter-attack. And they look like conceding every time they defend. And I even look at that cup replay, 98th minute, 1-1. And you've got Luton star goal-scoring centre-forward, free as a bird, 6 yards out to tap in. And yes, maybe in the long term that helped them avoiding extra time there, but it's not good enough defensively. It's basics of the game. And you'd be upset about that. You and I would be upset about that when we were Sunday League partners at centre-half if one of us did that. So to see that at championship level, it's a bit of a concern, really. For Shaun Maloney, I'm not convinced that this is the man to turn it around. Yes, maybe we've seen what can happen if someone can get the supporters on side and build that connection. We've seen it to an extent with Liam Rossini at Hull, where he's now doing a really good job. But I've got to say, my first thought when Kolo Toure was gone was, good, you've admitted your mistake. Go back to Liam Richardson, apologise and get him. I hope this works out genuinely, but I'm not convinced, is my initial reaction.
No, I said it's another guy that's obviously, I say novice, it's not a novice. Obviously, he's had coaching experience with Belgium. Obviously, he's been under Roberto Martinez. Do you think that he'll go for that Roberto Martinez style, or do you think he has his own way of playing?
Has he got the squad to do that? I'm not sure he has. And part of the key part of being a manager is playing to the style you've got. We've seen managers before who are progressive and attacking managers who have had to adapt when they first go into clubs and play a different way. I'm not sure that they've got that style. Traditionally, when Wigan were at their best last year and early this year, I think of the game back at Kenilworth Road again, they were fabulous on the counter-attack. They've got bundles of pace in wide areas. They've got a bit of quality in terms of delivery. And while they're not got ruthless goal scorers, they can create chances, particularly against teams at home that try to play a bit further up the pitch and control the game. If they end up playing out from the back, I almost see it a bit like, I guess, going back to earlier this season, Shota Arveladze at Hull, which is just playing out from the back, constantly making mistakes and conceding goals. So I don't think, whether that's his long-term aim or not, I don't think that can happen immediately. I think he's going to have to try and be a solid manager, Wigan have got to get results. They haven't got to play pretty football. They've got to be defensively solid. They've let in 49 goals. They've got by far the worst record defensively in the league. And no matter what Shaun Maloney wants to do going forward, that has got to be the first thing that gets addressed. The sign-in suggestion of Kelly would suggest that he's aiming towards that, but ultimately, I don't think he can play that style, not this season anyway.
Let's go on to February's fixtures. We spoke about it in the Kolo Toure video, you speaking after the transfer window. But we'll speak about it now, considering they haven't really won a game. Well, they haven't won a game since when we spoke about Kolo Toure. So you start off away at Blackburn, home to Huddersfield, away to Bristol City, home to Norwich, and then away to Preston. 15 points up for grabs there. How many do you think you'll get?
It's tough, isn't it? Because Blackburn are very good at home. Norwich are absolutely flying now under David Wagner. They are scoring goals galore, which is not what Wigan want to be facing. Preston are a bit hit and miss at home. But I'm looking at the first 3 home games. Take out Norwich. I'll go one more beyond what you've done there. You've got Wigan at home to Huddersfield, the first home game, which is his second in charge. And then the third home game is Wigan v Birmingham. Those 2 games are massive for me. I look after that. He's got a horrible spell throughout March. I mean, you look at the fixtures down there. You're playing Burnley, West Brom, Watford, Sheffield United in the same month. You ain't picking up too many points in that one. And then I go back to what we said last time. We talked about Cardiff last week and their penultimate game. The final day of the season's Wigan-Rotherham. I mean, that is massive potentially. And the main job for Shaun Maloney is for them to be in with a chance when they go into that game. And I think if he does that, home advantage, they'll get a big crowd in for that game, then maybe they'll be able to do it. In terms of this month, Huddersfield, they have to win, but they've been hard to get a point at home, Wigan, this year. They've really struggled at home. So do they maybe nick one on the road at Bristol City, who are finding form again? You and I know how hard it is to predict Bristol City. If I was looking at it, I don't see them getting more than a point a game this month, but then Birmingham at the start of March is huge.
Yeah, it's going to be a tough one, I think, for February. I could probably predict about 5 points out of 15. I think they could beat Huddersfield, and then the point I think they'll get is the Bristol City and Blackburn, because as you said, Blackburn are just as inconsistent, and Bristol City are Bristol City.
And Blackburn have started drawing now as well.
Yeah, now they've got points, draws for Blackburn. So I think that 5 points out of 15 is probably the target. I say it's not really the target. They want 15 out of 15, for God's sake. But looking at being realistically, I think they'll probably get 5. But they have to get that momentum going again, because obviously those 9 games on the Kolo Toure wasn't great. I think it was just 2 points in the end you only got out of that, but no win. So this side is lacking a lot of confidence at the moment. They thought, obviously, with the last game, obviously, they had the equaliser that was ruled out for offside. After that, they did nothing really after that. Confidence seemed to go from that. But especially with the next couple of days, if they can get one more, at least 2 more players in, even though they recruited in January, Ashley Fletcher, Stephen Colcott, Aziz in midfield, they have recruited. It just hasn't worked. Maybe it's just the structure that they've got, the players they've got that Kolo wanted them to play. I didn't know what style Kolo wanted to play. I generally didn't have a clue. But it wasn't good. So maybe Shaun Maloney might change it a lot, see what he has, but he's got literally 2 days. But I don't think they can really go for anyone, and I don't think anyone will buy any of their players anyway. It's not like anyone will go from Wigan in the next couple of days.
I'm just looking at an omen, Craig. Their last clean sheet was the 11th of October against Blackburn. Who knows? Maybe a Lancashire derby is what they need to relight.
There you go. Maybe a game away. Well, maybe a game away from home. Yeah. maybe they can't get wins at DW. But do you think now that Shaun Maloney's in, you said with Kolo in charge that you think they'll survive? Now that Shaun Maloney's in charge, do you think they'll still survive?
It's the hardest question, this. Oh, they're so evenly matched, all the sides down there. If those 2 defensive changes make a difference, if Ashley Fletcher pops up with 5 goals, I still think they've got a good chance. I'm looking at the sides I predicted pre-season, and Blackpool are in trouble, with Mick McCarthy or not. I know they played well in the Cup yesterday, but they're still in trouble. Huddersfield are still in a mess. Birmingham are really struggling at the minute. Watch out for that as a manager special soon, because they can't stop losing games. Yeah, I'm still going to stick my neck on the line. I still think Wigan pull it off because even though I'm not convinced by the appointment, I think with a couple of additions, they'll maybe get through this year. But then going on to your normal later question of Shaun Maloney for the long term, for the 3.5
Oh,
years,
absolutely not.
not a chance.
Absolutely not.
And the Championship tells us that anyway. But I think they will just survive, and I think they do it on the final day against Rotherham.
When do we? I asked that question. I think every managerial special.
Has it ever happened?
I don't think it ever has.
We'll have to go back and look if any of those managers have ever seen out their contracts.
Absolutely not. It's the Championship for you. But yeah, for me personally, I still don't think they'll survive. I generally don't think that. I think he'll sit out the season. You can't afford to sack another manager from now to May. That would be business suicide if you're gonna
Pay 9 years of manager in 6 months.
In 6 months. It's like, what is this? The Chelsea way, the Watford way. But well, do you think Celtic's contract? We both know. Absolutely not. This is Wigan. Do you think Shaun Maloney will be coaching in League One? You say no. I think yes. But that is our thoughts on the sacking of Kolo Toure and the hiring of Shaun Maloney as the new first team manager at Wigan Athletic. Let us know in the comments down below of what you think of the appointment, and do you think he'll do well in the job? Don't forget to like this video, subscribe to the Honest Football Podcast, and you can follow us on Twitter at Honest Football 3. I'll see you next time.